that people who watch it can hear. So the statewide assessment, right, the video was posted last night on the 6th. That is set up almost identically to the exam. So if you take that review a couple of times, one, the highest score is recorded, so that's always positive. But two, it's going to really prepare you for the exam so that when you go in and you take the exam, you're not surprised by what you see. In past semesters, the online exams, that's the first time people really do anything, outside the quizzes, but they're not very good in IB Learn. So I think this is a much better preparatory tool for you, if you will. So, okay, so let's go.
I've taken it twice.
Oh, you've already taken it twice. Excellent. What do you?
Yeah,
and any glitches?
I noticed that sometimes, like, I don't know if it's just the way the system is set up, but like if it says round to like the nearest decimal point and then it puts like extra zeros on the end, but it still counts it right. So I don't know if that's just with the system that it does that or what.
I don't know how to fix that because I've had that issue in stuff that I've built too. So as long as it's not counting you wrong, I say that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you find that it's adding things and it's counting you wrong, shoot me an email, let me know. Okay. I mean, we're anticipating problems this first semester with this. So if you see anything that looks weird, just shoot me an email and we'll go from there. So,
okay.
All right. Okay, so since the two of you both have microphones that work well, I think that will be the easiest way to kind of work through this class. And it'll be easier for me because I don't have a separate monitor for the chat screen. So anyway, we are, if that's okay with you guys, we're going to talk about sections 8 and 9. And they're pretty related, right? So you have another Excel assignment. Have I posted the Excel help video for that assignment?
I believe so.
Oh. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so if you aren't familiar with using formulas in Excel, that video just kind of walks through where they are, how they can be used, and what they're good for. We've got quiz 4, and I know I've gotten emails from different people of different questions that either aren't grading correctly or have issues. So anytime you're taking a quiz and you think something just doesn't look right, even if you're not sure if you were wrong or right or whatever, just feel free to shoot me an email and I can go in and look at it. We got a discussion board, and then project 1 is officially assigned. Have I posted those videos?
I don't think so because I'm not sure how to do the formulas and I could not find.
Okay, then I definitely didn't post those videos because I have 2 project 1 videos. One is a walkthrough of the project itself. So there's the document, and I just kind of talk about what's important, and I technically could probably do it right now. The other one is super short, but it has Excel, and it kind of talks through one way that you could set it up and how things can work and how it all relates. So I will post those. I just made myself a note, and I can do that, I think, probably as soon as we're done here. And that
I could just be blind
because
that happens.
Well, who knows? If I post them, they're buried 7 announcements deep at this point. So I'll post an announcement that's just titled Project 1 Videos, and that way it'll be easy to find later. So we'll do that. The projects, all 3 of them, because there's 1 per unit, have an Excel piece and a written piece. And the Excel piece, I will pre-grade for you. So if you do the project, the Excel piece, well, you have to do that part first because you're going to write about it. But anyway, if you do the Excel piece and you want to make sure that your numbers are correct before you do your write-up, because if you do the write-up on wrong numbers, well, your write-up's not going to be very good. So all you have to do is send me an email, attach the spreadsheet, and say, can you check this? And usually I can turn those around within a couple hours, depending if I'm in class or where I'm at. But they're not hard to check. And then I can give you feedback on what cells, formulas, whatever is incorrect, or I'll say it's good to go. And then I make myself a note. So if I pre-grade it, then I don't have to grade it again later. So that's always nice. But I will not pre-read your paper. Right? I don't want to read your paper once. I'm definitely not going to read it twice. So, but I will check your Excel portion because that's good. So if you need help with the write-up, I will answer questions about it. Like if you don't understand something, I will help explain it. I just don't want to read it multiple times. But the Student Success Center on the Warsaw campus, they do have an English tutor who is willing to help you with your papers. So, there is that. And of course, if you have questions about anything, shoot me an email. Yeah. Okay, any questions before we officially get started with the math?
Nope.
All right. So descriptive statistics, there are basically 5 that we're going to cover in section 8. So we're going to talk real quick about how we find these things. These should be a review of some time in your past. Depending on how long it's been, that may depend on how much you remember. So what we're going to do is knock the rust off and see what we can do. So do either of you remember what the mean is?
It's basically an average, yeah?
It is the average, yes. That is another way to describe it. Yep. And how do we find the mean or the average?
Add them all up and then divide by the amount of numbers that there are.
Exactly. So we take the sum of all numbers and we divide by the total number of numbers. Yeah. Okay, fabulous. I feel like this is a fine point pen on this screen compared to my normal. Okay, anyway, the median. What is the median?
When you put all the orders in ascending order and then you cross them off from each end one at a time.
Yep.
And whatever you're left with in the middle.
Right. So you put them in order least to greatest or ascending order. You using better words. And we want to find the number in the exact middle. Look, everything is capitalized except the L. Don't ask, I don't know. Okay. Then we go to the mode.
The number that occurs the most often.
Most often. You can have 2 modes, so that would be called bimodal if there are 2. If you have anything more than 2, you don't really have a mode. So there's that. All right, the range.
The difference between the largest and the smallest number?
Very good. You said difference. Difference means subtraction. So the maximum minus the minimum. I'm using those terms because in your Excel for this section, you're going to find the maximum, the minimum, and then you have to find the range. So that's kind of how they're all related. And percentiles. When you see the one, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
For me, the easiest with this one, I found that like having them in order from least to greatest, and then that middle number would be my 50%, and then I just count like from each end in how many it would be to be the same amount. Does that make sense?
I think yes, but let's diagram that. Okay, so if we have all of these numbers from 0 to 100, because percent means 100, right? So this is the ideal of percentile. If you had 100 numbers, percentiles would be very easy. If there were 100 numbers and you wanted the 10th percentile, it would be the 10th number, and that would be fabulous. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't deal with numbers that, data sets with 100 numbers. But using what we already know, and I think this is what you just said. I'm sorry, your voices kind of sound a little bit the same. So Shannon, you were just talking, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So when I cut it in half, right, if I find the exact middle, what's halfway between 0 and 100?
50.
50, right. So this is the 50th percentile. What else do we know that is right in the middle?
50.
No, yeah, use a word. And don't say 50
Half?
is a word. Use one of these.
Half?
Use one of these words up here. One of these 5 words.
Oh, the median.
The median, yep. And see how I made it blue? That was not on purpose, but it works out nicely. The 50th percentile is also the median because that's going to be right in the middle. Now, if you think through this, if you only look at the front half of the data, so from 0 to 50, if I cut that in half, what's halfway between 0 and 50?
25.
25, right. So this is the 25th percentile, halfway between, and I could find that by just taking the median of this first half of numbers. Make sense logically?
Yep.
Okay. And then we could do the same thing on this side. If we just chuck the second half, between 50 and 100, we can cut it in half and get the 75th percentile. And that's found by taking the median of the upper half. Now, that breaks this down into 4 equal parts. And of course, we're going to do examples of this in a minute. But these are the only percentiles that you're going to be asked to figure by hand, the 25th, the 50th, and the 75th, because they can be found by using the median. Any other percentiles, if we're doing the 10th or the 20th or the 18th, any of those kind of percentiles, you would use Excel for that. So when you get to the Excel assignment for this section, you will have to find a random percentile. But that's easy to do in Excel. It does it for you. Okay, so basically the idea of percentile, though, is where does it fall between 0 and 100? Right. Okay, so that's kind of the background for section 8. So we're going to do one of these. So this, right, and I don't want to bore you guys. So if we want to find the mean, right, we're going to add all of these together. How much detail do you want me to go into? I don't know how much you remember about this stuff. It sounds like you guys have already reviewed this a little bit.
This
I finished
so far I feel good about.
Okay, so we'll just run through this kind of quickly for this example. All right, so the mean, we would add them all up and get 164. There are 7 numbers, so our mean would be approximately 23.4. Make sure you're paying attention to what you want to round to, because that does make a difference. When it comes to the median and the percentiles, I want to do those 3, so I'm going to do B, E, and F all at the same time. So first, we find the median. The median is always in the middle, and in this case, 24 is exactly in the middle. So my median is 24. Now, when I go to find my 25th percentile, remember I'm just taking the median of the front half. I always think of these vertical lines when I do this as I chop down a tree. So if I had the axe and I chopped down the 24 tree, it's dead. And if I have a dead tree, it can no longer play. So I'm only working with these front 3 numbers, therefore making 16 my 25th percentile. Same concept on the upper half. 24 is dead, so I look at these 3. 32 is my 75th percentile. You notice that in front of the yellow, there's 1 number. Between these 2 vertical lines, there's 1 number. Right? That will always be the case when you're talking the quartiles, splitting into 4 equal parts. Okay, the mode appears most often. Which one appears most often?
32.
32. And I put them in order for you, so 32 minus 12 gives you the 20. Right? All good on that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one has an even number of data sets. Do you want to talk about this in terms of percentiles, or do you guys feel good?
I think I'm all right.
Yeah, okay. Then we're just gonna move on to symmetrical versus skewness. Okay. So the big thing, symmetrical, and let's see how good I can draw today. Symmetrical simply means, right, the left and the right side are the same, pretending that's a straight line. When you have symmetrical data, that means the mean is equal to the median. And in this case, also the mode. So how often in real life does the mean equal the median?
Not very.
Not very, right? It's very not common. It's very uncommon to have symmetrical data. But we will have skewed right data. So skewed right means that I have my huge hump is over here, and then it just tails off to the, that's actually pretty nicely drawn. So this might be, you might be graphing the ages of people at Chuck E. Cheese, right? There's a ton of kids, right? And these are like the 0 to 5-year-olds, ton of kids, not too many old people. So we call this skewed right because the tail goes off to the right. The relationship between the mean and the median is that the mean is greater than the median. This is kind of a general rule. There are exceptions. But generally, if you have skewed right data, the mean is bigger than the median. And this is how I remember it. Whichever way the tail points, you can see the tail is pointing to the right. That means the mean is greater because that will point to the right as well. And the last one, skewed left. So this would be big hump over here, tailing down this way. So this might be a graph of people who do the New York Times crossword, right? Lots of old people doing the New York Times crossword. I mean, I don't do it, so they're older than me, right? Do either of you do the New York Times crossword?
No.
Okay, just making my point. It's an old people thing, right? One of my sisters does the New York Times crossword. Okay, so skewed left because it tails off towards the left. So if it's tailing this way, then we would say the mean is generally less than the median. So you can tell by comparing your mean and your median how your data would be skewed if you graphed it. That's the purpose of this, to kind of give you an idea of the visual just from the numbers. Is it useful? I don't know, but it's got potential to be, I suppose. All right, so there's that. Let's see what's next. Oh, that was section 8. Okay. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, you guys good? Questions?
Nope.
No? Okay. Am I cutting out or anything? All right, so the Hilton internet is doing well. Okay, so section 9, weighted averages. So basically we're going to take the concept of averages from section 8 and put it on steroids, right? So when we talked about the average in section 8, it assumed that everything was created equal. And if everything is created equal, right, you add them up and you divide by how many you have, and there you go, you're fine. Well, not all things are created equal. Think about this course. Your tests are weighted more than your homework. So if you get a 0 on an exam, that's going to hurt you a whole lot more than if you get a 0 on a web work assignment, right? Because it's weighted differently. So we have 2 different types of weighted average problems. We have one that deals with percents, like your course grade, and anything that has percents in it. And this, the percentage piece, that is what project 1 is based off of. So just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, and then the other one is the counts. So like your GPA is figured on a weighted average of counts. So we will do examples of the course grade with percentage and the GPA with counts, because those are 2 things that directly affect your lives right now. So it's good to know how those things are calculated. I don't know that I fully understood how my GPA was calculated for the majority of my life. I just always assumed it was right because people with computers figured it, so it had to be right. I sincerely hope that was true. But then anything with numbers. So if you have, I think we have examples. We'll get there. But when there's not percentages, you use counts. They're very similar. The processes are actually the same if you look at it a certain way, but most people don't. So here we go. Okay, so this is actually, I want you to kind of keep in mind your project right now, because this is basically what your project is. Your project gives you a load of things. Whoa, wrong button. Okay, sorry. Your project is going to give you categories with a ton of scores, right? Way more than this, but we're doing this by hand, so we're not doing this. And then you have category percents, right? You have your weights. So when you have these pieces, how does it all work? Now, I am a fan of tables because I struggle to stay organized. So if I don't put things in tables and, label things, I just lose stuff. So when I think about weighted averages in this case, right, I have my 4 categories. And then I know I have my weights. And then I'm going to have my category averages. And this is exactly how your Math 123 grade is calculated, by the way. So in case you wondered, here it is. Okay, so the first things first, we have the weights. So my homework weight, right, is 10%. And these are always, the weights are always percents. The category averages are always numbers. Always. Even if they had given you all of these scores over here as percents, your category average is a number. That's important to remember. So this is a number. The weight is a percent. So when I go to calculate this, right, I will have to change these percents to decimals to actually do the mathematics in your calculator. When you're using Excel, you can just type in 10%. Excel is a calculator. It will do it will do the calculation of percent to a decimal for you. So you don't really have to worry about that so much. Okay, so now when I get to my category averages, we think about homework. So here are my homework scores. And when you're calculating your weighted average, you only put one homework grade in for the 10%. And the one homework grade you put in is the average of all of your homeworks. So you have your 100, 90, 95, and 97. How do I find the average of the homework scores?
Add them all up.
Exactly. So, of course, I don't have that written down.
95.5 is what I came up with.
Okay, so good. So your category average is 95.5. So if you think about how that works in terms of the Math 123 class, you do 27 web work assignments. You have, I think 8 Excel assignments. And those together, those 35 assignments, I think, make up your homework grade. So you take the average of those 35, except we drop the lowest 2. So we take the average of your top 33, and that what goes in as your homework grade. That's why you don't want a bunch of zeros anywhere, because that's going to drag your average down. Okay, then we go to quizzes. We need category average for the quizzes, projects, and exams.
For quizzes, I got 78.3.
Great. Projects?
94.
And exams?
90.
Good. Right. All right, so now we are ready. Oops, wrong button. We are ready for our first Beckyism of the night. This next column I like to call quality points. You can call it whatever you want, but I like to label things, so quality points. Because in order to get a grade in a class, you have to earn points, and if they're positive, I think they're quality. Okay, so the quality points are found by taking your category average times the weights. So you multiply the two columns together. Because if you think about the mathematics behind it, 10% of your grade is homework. Well, of means to multiply. So 10% of the homework score goes towards the final. So I'm going to take my 10% times 95.5.
9.55.
9.55. And also if you think about this, if the highest category average you could have in anything is a 100, right? So if you had a perfect 100, you still would have only earned 10 points in your homework because it's 10% of that. So just kind of thinking through. So 20% of our quizzes.
15.66.
Okay. It actually would round up to 6.7, but that's trivial. And then we take our projects.
23.5.
23.5. And exams.
40.5.
40.5. Makes sense that that's the biggest number because that's the biggest percentage. So when you look at your weights, whatever category is weighted the heaviest, that's where you really want to do the best because that's going to carry the most weight as you go. Okay, so now let me change colors just for organizational piece here. The idea is that you want to take your total quality points divided by the total weights. So in both types of weighted averages, you're dividing at the very, very end. This one is super easy. So the total quality points, so if you add up all those purple numbers,
89.22.
89.22. So the total quality points is 89.22. If you add up all of the weights, what should you get?
100.
100%. What's 100% as a decimal?
1 point.
Just one. So in this particular example, you're taking your quality points divided by 1. So if you look in your packet, your workbook, whatever you want to call it, they don't even address this step because you're just dividing by 1. Well, I like to think if we talk about it, then it makes sense in the other example why we have to divide at the end. You're dividing in both pieces. All right. So in this particular case, your final grade is an 89.22, which is totally a B. Unfortunately, it's 28 hundredths away from an A, but that's okay. Shouldn't have slacked off in that second quiz. All right. Right? Yeah. Okay. Seems like it's low, but that's okay. Okay. Did that make sense?
It does.
Okay. When I post the short video about Project 1, you're going to see that it's set up very similar to this in terms of the table, except you're going to use formulas to move everything around, and there's a whole lot more, numbers. But it's going to look very similar.
Do everything by hand and make your life easier.
What's that? I'm sorry.
So can't we just do everything by hand and make life easier?
Oh, no. When you see how easy it is in Excel, you're going to be like, I should never have to do it by hand again. Because, I mean, the problem that we just did, in the project, if you know how to use Excel, like when I do the project every semester because it's all new numbers and new everything, the longest part for me is typing in the initial data. After I have the data in, I can do all of my averages, all of my table setups, all of my calculations in under 2 minutes. It's so quick. Once you know how to do it. Obviously, if you don't know how to do it, it's not that quick. But Excel is so fabulous once you know how to use it. It makes me wonder how I survived college without using it. Yeah, I don't. Okay. We are now going to do I lost my words, my accounts problem. We will do a GPA problem next, I think. Yep, okay. So we'll do a GPA problem next, but having an idea of what the counts is about does help as well. So Sarah's selling 8 watches for $45 each, and 12 necklaces for $60 each, and 35 clocks for $92 each. What is the average cost of an item? Now, if you think about this, you can't just use a basic average because they're all different, right? Watches are only $45, clocks are $92, and there's only 8 watches, there's 35 clocks. So because there's such this wide variety of prices, that's why we have to do a weighted average. Even though it just says average, you have to kind of keep in mind these numbers are not all the same. They are not created equal, so there needs to be a weighted average. So even with the counts, I set up the table there as well. So I have watches, necklaces, and clocks. Now without weights, now we don't have weights, so we just have 2 columns with what we're about here. So we have number of items and we have the cost of items. You just use what you have and you go from there. So for watches, I have 8 watches and they are $45 each. For my necklaces, there are 12 and they are $60 each. And I have 35 clocks that are $92 each. Do either of you have any idea what our next step would be?
You have to multiply the amount of watches, the amount of items times their dollar amount.
Yeah.
For
and I call everything quality points because why not? What's the purpose of this? It's the absolute correct step, but why? What is this giving us?
The total cost of everything?
Total cost. Yes, total cost of the watches, total cost of the necklaces, total cost. Fabulous. My life is a whole lot easier when you guys know things. I appreciate it. Or I guess when you answer questions. All right.
I did this earlier and I finished all the homework earlier. And when I did this problem on the homework, it took me forever to figure it out because it doesn't say, I don't think it says that each item is that amount. So I was under the understanding that 8 watches was valued at $45 altogether. So then I had to take a step back and think to myself, well, maybe it means that each of these are this cost.
Yeah.
And then I figured it out.
Yeah, interpretation is everything. And I find that that's extremely difficult when writing math problems, because when you write a math problem, you write it with one interpretation in mind, but that doesn't mean that 3 different people reading it are going to read it 3 different ways. So,
Right.
yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so we multiplied the 2 columns. What do you get when you multiply those together and then add?
4,300.
4,300. Okay, so now we're going to test you. Total quality points. Ooh, that's a Q. Divided by what?
The
Total number or total dollars?
Number.
Number. Yep. Because it goes back to the same idea of the normal average, right? You're dividing by how many you have. So 4,300 is the total cost of all of our items. And we have what, 55 items?
Yeah.
So then when we divide by the 55 items, that gives us an average cost of $78.18. And if you look at it, you might say, well, that seems not right when the watches and the necklaces are both less than that. But you have so many darn clocks that are $92 each, they really took up the average cost of an item. So if Sarah wanted to lessen her average cost of an item, she needs to start selling like pinky rings for, $10, and that would drastically move down her average. Okay, so there's that. Okay, now let's do a GPA problem, and then I think that's the last thing I have on here. My table's not right. Look at that jacked up business. Okay, can you guys deal with that jacked up table?
Yeah.
Good, I appreciate that. Okay, so the big thing with GPAs is that I'm actually going to add on to this table. You have to take these grades and translate them into points, because that's how the education world works, right? If you earn a C in biology, you get so many points for every credit hour, right? So A's are 4, B's are 3, C's are 2, D's are 1, and of course, if you fail, you earn no points. So in this particular time, right, so biology is a C, that's 2 points. Of course, math is an A, 4 points. Can't believe there's a B in English. D in history and a B in sociology. So these are points. But the points you earn are per credit hour, which is why if you fail a 4 credit hour class, it hurts you a whole lot more than if you would fail IVYT, which is only 1 credit hour. So not saying that you should plan to fail the low credit hour courses, but they hurt your GPA less, right? So, okay. So I
Those numbers are in the credit column.
What's that?
Those numbers next to the grades are supposed to be in the credit column?
Yeah, they are. And that's why I made the grades into the points, and I'm going to just rewrite them over here in the credit column.
Oh, okay.
Because, yeah, I don't know why that's not nice. Makes me sad. I probably could go in and fix it, but that sounds like a lot of work. Okay, so we know the credits for the course, and we know how many points you earn per credit hour. So, keeping with the same idea of what we've been doing, what am I going to do next?
Multiply them together.
Multiply them together. And it's going to give us quality points, because why would we title it anything different? So when we multiply together, you're figuring out how many total points you're earning for biology. So if you got a C, you're earning 2 points per credit. It was 3 credit hours. So how many points are you earning for biology?
6.
Yep. So then math, 4 times 3, 12. English, 9. 4 and 9. And you'd be surprised at my face-to-face classes, so many people get to this and they rush because this is the easy part, right? Man, 1 times 4 becomes 1. Like, people don't know why their answer's wrong. And I'm like, well, you can't multiply. So make sure it's an easy piece, but people rush through it because it's supposed to be the easy part, and that's where the easy mistakes happen. So, okay, how many total quality points do we have?
40.
40.
All right. So, again, our division process, total quality points, we're dividing by total what? Points or credits?
Credit.
Credit?
Very good. And if you think about it, your numerator is basically the total points, right? Because you got points per credit. So you don't want to be points divided by points, then you're undoing what you just did. So we divide by our total credits. And in this case, what is that answer? 16?
16.
Yeah. So your GPA would be 40 divided by 16.
2.5.
Which is 2.5. That D really hurt you in history. Yeah. So at least when I was in college, I haven't seen a grade card since, 2004. But usually on there, they have your semester GPA. So like if this is what you took this semester, it would say semester GPA 2.5. And then it would have your cumulative GPA, which is all of the previous semesters combined. Right. So that first semester, you really want to do well in the first semester because that kind of sets the tone. If you start with a 1.8 GPA, well, it's going to be hard to get out of that hole. But if you start with a 3.6, okay, well, then you've got some, buffer in case you get a D in history at some point. So there's that. Okay. Do you two have any questions?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think my biggest question was just on the homework, but if you're going to post videos or on the project, if you're going to post videos for that, I'm sure I can figure it out.
I am.
For formulas.
Yeah, don't forget about the exam next week. Okay, so wait. So Shannon, you're the one who said you're taking your exam on Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Vanessa, do you have your exam scheduled already?
I do. I'm taking it Tuesday.
Excellent. Very good. Okay. Make sure they should give you scrap paper to do your work on. If you want me to give it good thought of whether I'm going to give you partial credit if you happen to miss a problem, please number your work. When people just like turn the paper every 30 seconds and write all over with no numbers and this, it's crazy. I don't really look at the scrap paper because I don't have time for that, right? So if your scrap paper is organized and numbered, make sure you turn it back into the people. They scan it and email it to me. And then I can give you partial credit if you happen to miss something. Like if you took 1 times 4 and got 1 on your weighted average, I can still give you partial credit for that problem. So just make sure that you keep it organized and turn it in at the end. So, okay, just to refresh, please make sure you go into the outcomes. Let's see if we go into this course. Yeah, so I did post the video, but just to refresh, it's in module 5 and it's in module 4. There it is. Review exam 1 quiz. That's where you want to go because it is part of a grade and it's a great refresher for the exam. That is where you get to the exam. Okay.
So do we have to have that? You said that's due the day that the exam is due, right? So Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday is the last day you can take the review quiz, yes. Okay. So, I mean, you definitely want to take it before you take the exam at least once so that to help prepare you. But if you're not satisfied with your grade and you want to make your grade higher, yeah, you can work on it the rest of the week. Just to improve.
Okay. So just to clarify, not due until the 17th, not this Saturday, right?
Correct. Yeah, the review quiz, it should be set to be due. Well, let me go back to that. It should be set to be due next Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, February 17th. Yep. Next Saturday. Yeah.
Is the exam only 20 questions like the review, or is it more questions?
That is a very good question.
I can tell you here. Hold on.
There it is. This 20 question, 90-minute proctored exam. Yep. So yeah, it's 20 questions also.
How long does it usually take people? Do you know? What's the average?
Honestly, I don't know. I've never looked at, I think I can tell that in here, but I've never looked. I did have one student who, last semester, she did all of her exams in under an hour because she talked to me about it. So I think the more prepared you are going in, if you take that review quiz once or twice, I think that you'll know what to expect. You'll know what the questions are going to look like. because some of those questions were pulled from the exam one or the exam packets. So it's going to be very, very similar. And so you're going to kind of know what to expect. So I don't think it'll take you the full 90 minutes. But that at least allows you time if you want to check your work, or if you get stuck on one, you can skip it and go back to it. You'll have time for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Should be okay. But, all right. Do you want me to talk through project one now, or do you want me to just post those videos and you can email if you have questions? What do you prefer?
Well, I mean, if the videos are going to explain it all, I don't really feel like you should have to repeat yourself.
Well, it doesn't. What?
I've seen that video, Becky. I don't know where I got it from, but.
Well, it's on my YouTube page. So if you go to the YouTube page, if you go to my YouTube page and search for anything in this course, you'll find it, because that's where all of the videos are housed.
I feel like you emailed it or something.
It's possible. It is possible that I put it somewhere.
I started setting my Excel up already.
Oh, yeah. Good.
And
yeah, I got to the point where it said to use the formulas, and I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah. So. I'll post those videos as soon as we finish here. The big thing with the gradebook project is that, okay, so number one is the Excel spreadsheet. When you're done with your Excel spreadsheet, you need to make sure every one of these white boxes, I use this document exactly for my rubric. So if you don't have your name, course name, and project name, you lose points. If you don't have the scores that are provided, I mean, it's easy for me. I go down. If you have them, great. If you don't, you don't. So make sure that all of this stuff is in there. And then when it comes to the paper, there are 6 bullet points, right? So your paper should have 6 paragraphs. This is kind of how I go with it. You should have 1 paragraph, and it might only be 2 or 3 sentences. I don't need 5 sentences with a topic sentence and whatever, but you should be able to answer the question for each one of these in somewhat of a paragraph form. So as you go through, explanation on how the final grade is calculated, how Excel is used in this process. So basically, what did you do? If you kind of explain your Excel process, there's paragraph 1. And you'll notice there's not very many of these bullets. So I don't remember the split that I do with grades, if it's 60-40 or 50-50 in terms of Excel and paper. But these boxes are usually like 9 or 10 points a piece. So if you skip one because you don't know what to do, you've just dropped a letter grade. So it's crazy. So if you get to one of these and you're not sure what they're asking, shoot me an email and say, hey, in the write-up part, bullet number 4, I don't know what they're talking about. Then I can, try to explain it a little bit differently. But just make sure that you're hitting all of these pieces. Like, look at the last one. Reflect on the results. What have you learned? You would be surprised how many people do not do that part. I mean, that's opinion. All you have to do is give me your opinion and you get 10 points. I don't know how that's difficult, but you'd be surprised. So you do need to turn in an Excel document and a Word document when you turn it in. And then here's all that information that you're going to use. So, yeah.
There's the Excel descriptive statistics. I turned it in. Are we supposed to use formulas on that one also? Because I didn't.
Yeah, you were supposed to. I don't know if I
can I redo it and turn it back in again?
Absolutely. I think that there's more than one submission allowed, so you should be allowed to do another submission. Okay. I don't know if that's specifically stated or not, but that is the goal that you would use formulas. Yes. Okay. Yeah. It kind of gets you nice to know, how easy it is to use formulas in Excel once you know where they are. That's kind of the key piece, is knowing where everything is located. So, yeah, okay. Anything else? All right. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, then we'll call it a class. Ooh, project 1 information. I bet there are the videos.
They're hiding.
Project 1 information.
So there first.
What's that?
Yeah, I found them in my email email February 1st.
Oh,
So the project walkthrough, that's basically what I just said right now. So, I mean, you don't really need to watch that if you don't want to, but this is the Excel help. So it's an old one because that's in my old house and I've been out of that house for 2 years, but it goes through kind of how you can set it up, what it looks like, that kind of thing. And it's not very long. I don't even know if it's 5 full minutes. So, but there you go. So yeah, but no, I don't have anything about the next week's session. So, all right. There we go. Any other questions?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, if you come across anything else, in the next week before you take your exam, just shoot me an email and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. I hope you make it home.
Yeah, me too. Thanks. If nothing else, I mean, it is 40 degrees and raining here in Texas right now, so it's not even like it's nice to be here.
But at least it's rain and not snow.
That is true. That is true. Find the positive, I guess. All right. Let me know if you need anything. Otherwise, I will see you guys in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay, dokie.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.